All right, so we're diving deep into atomic habits. And you know what? Just by being here, you're already kind of ahead of the curve
Oh, absolutely.
because you're not falling for those flashy, quick fix promises.
Yeah,
You're ready to dig into the real stuff,
exactly. It's about,
the nitty-gritty of how habits actually work.
and I think that's what's so refreshing about James Clear's approach. It's not just another self-help book.
Right.
It's a practical guide. It gets down to the mechanics of why habits stick
Yeah.
or why they completely fall apart.
Yeah, and even if you've dabbled in habit building before,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
goes deeper. It's like, think of it this way.
Okay.
You're trying to turn this massive cruise ship.
Mm.
You wouldn't expect it to just swerve on a dime.
No, no, absolutely not.
It's these tiny adjustments to the rudder. Over time, that changed the entire course.
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of what Clear unlocks here. It's these small, almost imperceptible changes that when you compound them over time
Yeah.
lead to some really remarkable results.
I love that. It's like that story I read about the pottery class.
Okay.
One group was graded purely on how many pots they made, like just quantity.
Okay.
The other group was judged on the single best pot they made.
Interesting.
At the end, guess who had the most refined, like technically skilled work?
I'm going to guess the quality over quantity group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what's so wild about Clear's approach. It's almost like deceptively simple.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically saying, ditch those grand gestures, the all or nothing, forget that.
Yeah.
Focus on these 1% improvement.
The small wins.
Yes, because they build on each other.
And the fascinating thing is, this isn't just some motivational mumbo jumbo.
Right.
It's rooted in neuroscience,
Okay.
right? Every time we do something, every time we repeat a behavior,
Yeah.
we're strengthening these neural pathways in our brain.
Okay.
It's like walking through a forest. The more you walk the same path, the more defined that path becomes.
Right.
While those other paths just become overgrown and forgotten,
That makes so much sense.
yeah.
But then how do we actually do that? How do we make those paths stick, especially in a world full of distractions?
And that is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it's where Clear's 4 laws of behavior change become absolutely crucial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of them as your compass and your map for this whole habit-building journey.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Okay, so these 4 laws, these aren't just like random rules pulled out of thin air.
No, not at all.
There's a method to the madness, right?
Absolutely. It all comes back to understanding how our brains are wired
Okay.
and then working with that wiring, not against it.
So like, we're hacking our brains to build better habits? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, in a way it is. Like, take that first law, make it obvious. It almost sounds too simple, right?
It does, it does.
But there's a whole lot more to it.
Okay, so break it down for me. What's the deeper layer there?
All right, so picture our ancient ancestors, right?
Sure.
They didn't have grocery lists or phone reminders.
Sure.
They relied on visual cues
Oh, interesting.
to trigger certain actions.
So like what? Give me an example.
Well, like a ripe fruit tree, that meant, okay, time to gather food. Or certain animal tracks, that could signal danger.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And our brains are still wired for that kind of visual prompting.
So we're basically hacking our caveman brains to create healthier habits.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
I could dig it.
Yeah.
But how do we translate that into, say, remembering to take our vitamins every morning, something that's not exactly visually stimulating activity?
Yeah, that's where you got to get strategic. And Clear talks about using what he calls implementation intentions.
Okay.
And it's not just, oh, I want to take my vitamins. You have to decide exactly when and where you'll actually do it.
So instead of vague hopes, it's after I pour my morning coffee, I'll take my vitamins.
Exactly. You nailed it.
I mean, that makes them pretty hard to miss.
Exactly. You've linked it to a specific cue, that morning coffee, and you've got a clear action plan. No more guesswork. You're just making it easier for your brain to make the right choice.
Okay, so we've made it obvious, but what about those habits that feel like a total drag?
Ah, yes, the dreaded chores.
That's where Make It Attractive comes in, right?
Go. Now we're tapping into the brain's reward system.
Okay, my favorite.
Yeah, right. So one of the most interesting things Clear talks about is temptation bundling.
Okay, I've heard of it. This is where you pair something you want to do with something you need to do, right?
Precisely.
Like, I can only listen to my favorite podcast while I'm on the treadmill, that kind of thing.
Perfect example. You're essentially you're hijacking your brain's reward system.
So smart.
The anticipation of that podcast, it actually makes the workout itself more appealing.
Like sneaking veggies into a smoothie, but for workouts.
Exactly. You got it.
Listeners, what's one dreaded task you can make more enticing with a little temptation bundling this week? Let us know.
Yeah, I like that
All
challenge.
right, so we've got obvious, we've got attractive, but then even with the best intentions, sometimes, I don't know, it's like we hit a wall.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
And that's where make it easy comes in, right?
Exactly, because we're wired to choose the path of least
We
resistance.
are hardwired for that easy button.
It's true, and our willpower, it's not exactly limitless, is it?
It's definitely not.
It kind of fades as the day goes on, you know?
So how do we outsmart that urge to just take the easy way out?
Yeah.
Because let's be real, that comfy couch is calling my name sometimes.
Oh, I hear you. It's all about being a little bit clever with your environment. Clear talks about this, making those good habits super obvious,
Hmm.
while the less helpful ones, you gotta kind of hide those away.
So like out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. Like if you're trying to cut back on the whole social media thing,
Yeah.
put your phone in another room while you're working.
I've even heard people putting those phones in like time lock safes.
Seriously, whatever works. It's all about making that good choice, the easiest choice.
Right. And Clear also talks about the 2-minute rule.
Ah, it's a game changer.
It is like breaking down a daunting task into something so small, so easy.
Almost ridiculously easy, right?
You can't help but do it. I've tried this.
And how did it go?
Instead of clean the entire kitchen, it's load the dishwasher.
Okay.
And sometimes that little win, it snowballs into the whole thing.
Right. It's like you trick your brain into getting started, and that's often the biggest hurdle.
Absolutely, it is. Okay, so we've made it obvious, we've made it attractive, we've made it easy. Where do we go from there?
Well, then it's time for the grand finale.
Huh?
Making it satisfying, rewarding those wins.
Okay, because we all like to feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do we make those rewards actually, I don't know, meaningful? Especially for things that aren't inherently fun, like sticking to a budget or meeting a deadline.
It's all about those instant gratification moments.
Oh, okay.
Even something small like checking off a to-do list
Yeah.
or using a habit tracker app, those little dopamine hits, they work wonders.
It's true. There's something about seeing your progress visually.
Oh, it's so motivating.
Super motivating.
Yeah.
And Clear doesn't just leave us hanging with the 4 laws.
No, he's got even more up his sleeve.
He digs into some really cool advanced stuff, too.
Like one of my favorites, the whole concept of identity-based habits.
Okay, tell me more about that.
This goes way beyond just like tweaking your actions, you're changing your self-image.
Oh, wow.
So it's not, I want to be a morning person. It's, I am a morning person.
You're almost like trying on a new identity.
And then what happens? Your actions, they naturally start aligning with that vision.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. Your habits become a reflection of who you believe yourself to be.
I love that.
Hmm.
But we got to acknowledge, it's not always a straight shot to success, right?
Mhm.
We hit those plateaus, those moments where it feels like we're spinning our wheels.
Oh, tell me about it. I've been there.
It's so discouraging.
It is. But Clear, he talks about this, the plateau of latent potential, right? Sometimes you are making progress, even if you can't quite see it yet.
Okay, I've got to wrap my head around this one.
Think of it like building a bridge, brick by brick. Even though you can't walk across it yet, every brick gets you closer to that other side.
It's like trusting the process, even when the results are kind of hiding for a bit.
Exactly. Trust the journey. And hey, remember this.
What's that?
We're not in this alone. Like, one of the biggest takeaways for me from Atomic Habits
Yeah.
is the power of community. Surround yourself with people who get it.
Find your people.
Yes. People who share your values, your goals, because their habits, they can actually rub off on you in a good way.
It's like our habits can be contagious. I'm all about finding your tribe.
Me too. It's huge, whether it's an online thing, a group in your town.
Or even just, one other person, an accountability buddy.
Oh, that can make all the difference.
It really can. So if we had to boil down Atomic Habits to its core,
Yeah.
it's not about those huge overnight transformations. It's the small stuff, done consistently.
Those 1% improvements that add up over time.
And it's about understanding the why, the science behind those habits, so
Hmm.
we can design a life that actually aligns with who we want to be.
Exactly. It's about understanding the game so we can play it strategically and win.
I like that. All right, as we wrap up our deep dive today, I'll leave you with this. If you could change just one small habit, what would it be? And how can you use even just one of these amazing tips from James Clear to make it stick? Remember, even the smallest changes, when you do them consistently, can blossom into something incredible. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep exploring, and keep chasing those atomic wins.